Welcome to the Jesus Psalms, a study of 16 Psalms that speak about Jesus. This lesson is about Psalm 2. I'm calling it Jesus, the Reigning Sun. This psalm begins with a question. Why are the nations so angry at God? And why do people waste their time making plans against the Lord? Those are great questions. But the Psalm 2 tells us the Lord already has appointed his king over the earth. In other words, God's plan has already been executed in his mind. He's already got the end game in place. In the historical reading of Psalm 2, we're going to see that David is this Lord's anointed king. And David really was to be the king of the world because Israel was to dominate the world. But they never achieved that. So David never did achieve king of the world status, but he could have been had Israel gotten rid of the Canaanites and the idolatry and lived up to their full blessing of the Lord. So David was a type of this king. He was the original king, but in the prophetic reading we find that Jesus is the prophetic king that's talked about here. That is the Lord's king that will reign over the earth. So we're going to see this historical and this prophetic reading in all of the Jesus Psalms. The poetry in Psalm 2 portrays Jesus as God's appointed king and ruler over the earth. The conclusion of this psalm is this: submit to God's king because he has the power to crush all other kingdoms. And the Bible tells us he will use that power to crush all the kingdoms of the world, and he will be God's king, ruling all of the creation. And interestingly enough, we are going to be reigning with him, and we'll actually hit that tonight. It may be something that will surprise you. So instead of raging, the psalmist makes a suggestion to the people of the world. He invites them to learn a lesson. The lesson is the Lord has already decided the outcome of the world, and it's going to be ruled by his king. And so the best advice the psalmist can give us is submit to the Lord's king. If you do, you will be blessed. There's that word again, and it crops up at the end of Psalm 2 that goes perfectly with the beginning of Psalm 1, which was blessed. There you go. Oh, it was a little disappointing, y'all, but that's okay. Y'all are just 1 week old Bible students. So, all right. So he gives his best advice, and that is submit to God's king. All right. So let's get into it. A few notes before we do see it. There is no superscription on Psalm 2. Consequently, we don't know here who wrote it. Doesn't say who wrote it in the psalm. It opens with the psalmist asking a question to the reader. So we'll talk about that. There are 4 speakers in this psalm. Here's who they are. The kings of the earth and the people. They're going to speak against the Lord and his anointed. We'll talk about that word a little bit more later. The Lord is also going to speak. He's going to speak back to the kings and people, and he's going to speak about his anointed. And then the Son is going to speak, and he's going to say what the Father has told him already about himself. And then the psalmist is going to speak. He's going to advise the kings and the judges to submit to the Lord's appointed king. Is this dark enough? I think it could go darker. Good? It's okay? All right, here we go. All right. A few more notes. Psalm 2 is a royal psalm. We talked about that. It's also messianic. It's filled with vivid imagery. You know this already. Psalm 2 is divided into 4 paragraphs with 3 lines of each, and that corresponds to those 4 speakers. In verse 1 through 3, the nations and the kings are rebelling against the Lord. In 4 through 6, the Lord responds with laughter. We'll talk about that when we get to those verses. 7 through 9, the Son declares the Lord's decree. The Lord has decreed something, and He's decreed it to His Son. And the Son here is going to tell him what the Lord decreed to him. And then 10 through 12, a final warning and a call to wisdom. So there's where we get the fact that it's also a wisdom song, and that is by the psalmist himself. All right, you ready? Let's listen to it. This is how people learned the Psalms for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage, and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed, saying, Let us break their bonds in pieces, and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Then He shall speak to them in His wrath, and distress them in His deep displeasure. Yet I have set my King on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore be wise, O kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest He be angry, and you perish in the way, when His wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all those who put their trust in Him.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful words. Let's get into it. You ready, Jackie? Oh, she's not ready. Sweetheart.
I'm ready.
You don't have it on your mic stand. You don't have to, but it worked so well last time.
There we go.
Oh, good. You ready?
You feel better about that?
I'm feeling great about it. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Why?
Why? I told you we were beginning with a question. But who's asking this question? We don't know yet. Who are they asking? We don't know yet. Why ask why? We don't know yet. But before we even find that out, let's think about this why. Do we ever fully know why? Why is a question that generates an answer that can always be asked another why. No matter what answer you give, you can always question, but why? Why don't these people want God to rule over them? Because they love their own way. Why do they love their own way? Because of sin. Why is there sin? Because mankind rebelled. Why did mankind rebel? Because he believed the lie. Why did he believe the lie? Because he wanted the fruit. Why did he want the fruit? Because it looked good. Why did it look good? Because he was hungry. And it goes on and on and on and on. But if you keep pushing deeper, asking why, you eventually come to one answer. God is sovereign. He does things the way He wants to do, and things are the way they are because He has allowed them to be this way. He's allowed evil. He allows evil sometimes to even flourish. God is allowing this, but it will not be allowed forever. And that is the end that we're all looking to, and that is the end where this King of the Lord puts down all rebellion against God. So, when you ask why, there's really no end to asking why, but it's a question here nevertheless. So here it is. Here we go, Jackie.
Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing?
All right. Now, what kind of symmetry or what kind of parallelism do you see in there? Do they say the same thing, different thing, stair step, repeating, not repeating, adding additional info, or a picture symbol? You think it's adding info? Anybody else? I think it's saying the same thing. They're raging. The nations, the peoples, they're plotting. Y'all didn't like that one? Okay. You know what? It's not required for salvation. Not required for salvation. All right, y'all didn't like that one. All right, I'll give you another one. The kings of the earth, did you read this yet?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together.
This is something they're doing on purpose. They're setting themselves. They're taking counsel. They're convening a meeting. They are going through some actions. And a little bit more.
Against the Lord and against his anointed.
Against the Lord and against his anointed. Now, this anointed at the time this was written would have been the king. If the psalmist were David, it would have been David, but we don't know who the psalmist is yet. Do we? No, not yet. So these people, they're raging, they're angry, they're plotting, they're making plans. They're setting themselves, they're taking counsel against the Lord and against his king. All right? This is equivalent. Again, the kings, the rulers, they set themselves, they take counsel. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. It's just saying that they are against the Lord. They're taking actions against the Lord and his anointed. All right. There you go. That's our first Christ connection for tonight. And we've already come across some wording here that appears in the New Testament. So let's read it. Let's see what it says. You ready, Jackie? This is Acts chapter 4.
When they heard this, they raised their voices together to God.
Oh, let me give you the context. I'm sorry. This is Peter and John after they were released from the Jewish leaders. They had healed a man at the temple. The Jewish leaders called them in, questioned them about this healing, and they said, we can only speak about Jesus. And so they returned after that meeting and they came to the believers. And this is what happened when the apostles came back to the believers. Thank you. Go ahead.
And said, Master, you are the one who made the heaven, the earth, and the sea, and everything in them. You said through the Holy Spirit, by the mouth of our father David, your servant, why do the Gentiles rage and the peoples plot futile things? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers assemble together against the Lord and against his Messiah.
So we don't know exactly who was saying this, but it identifies these words as being from David. That's how we know David wrote the second Psalm. Somebody in the early church told us, and there it is right there, because it's not in the superscription. There is no superscription, I think, on Psalm 2. All right, so it's a very, very good quotation of the same thing that was written in Psalm 2, and it's applied to Jesus. And it's putting him down here in the role of the anointed. Remember, it said against the Lord and against his anointed. This is saying it's the same thing. It's the Messiah. It's Jesus. All right, so back to Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage? Why are the people plotting a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us
break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us.
All right, so now that we know that David is the psalmist here, I've got him out here because he's saying these things. And I'm going to label the four speakers because it's not clearly labeled in here who's speaking what. So David is coming up with this first part. Here's what the nations, the peoples, the kings, and the rulers are saying when they're raging. Let us break their bonds in pieces, talking about the Lord and his anointed, and let us cast their cords away from us. The Gentiles view God's power as oppressive. God's rule is oppressive. It puts rules on us, Gentiles, that we don't want. We want to break out of that bondage. We don't want to live by the Lord's rules. Let's throw their rules off. Let's cast their bonds away. But it is futile. What human arrogance. Okay, that's equivalent parallelism. Let's keep going, Jackie.
He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision.
Then that is equivalent parallelism, saying the same thing. The Lord, he sits in heaven, he shall laugh, he shall hold them in derision. The Lord is not worried about people that are not going with his program. He's in a seated position, if you want to say it like that. We know that he's not a physical being, but he's resting. He's already done his work. He did his work in 6 days. The Lord is resting. He's not working. He's sitting down, and he's not even in our realm. He's in another realm called heaven. So he's completely detached from the things of this world. He chooses to be a part of it, but he's in another world. And he's laughing because nothing that these kings and rulers say or do is going to make a difference. It's not going to matter at all. They're plotting in vain against the Lord. Let's keep going.
Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure.
He is angry. Even though he's laughing, he's angry. He's laughing at just the spectacle that man thinks that he can go against God. It's so ludicrous, it's funny to the Lord. He's not laughing at our plight, but he's laughing at our rebellion. It's pointless. It's getting us nowhere. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. That is expansive. It goes from his wrath to his deep displeasure. Here's what he says. This is what the Lord said.
Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion.
The Lord doesn't answer the endless whys. He doesn't give answers to all of our whys. He doesn't even answer their questions. He just answers with a statement. I have already picked my king. I've already put him in power. This Zion is one of the hills of Jerusalem. It was in the old city of David, so that goes great along with the fact that this king is David. This anointed one of the Lord is David. And the Lord said, I've already got my king. He's already on the throne in Jerusalem. Now, this is what the son, the anointed, the king is going to say. Now, he's not been called son yet, but he's getting ready to be called son.
I will declare the decree the Lord has said to me.
All right, so he's saying, the Lord has said this to me, and I'm going to tell people this is what he said.
You are my son. Today I have begotten you.
You are my son. Today I have begotten you. That's what the Lord said to his son. And
ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession.
Ask me, and I will give you everything. This is everything. It means that this anointed king, God's son, is going to have control over everything on the earth. That's going to be his possessions. All right? And now that takes us to Acts chapter 13. We've got the same phrase quoted right here. This is the first. There we go. This is the first time that this phrase is quoted. We're not going to read the other two Christ connections in the New Testament. Go ahead, Jackie.
God has fulfilled this for us, their children, by raising up Jesus. As it is written in the second Psalm, you are my son, today I have become your father. As to his raising him from the dead, never to return to decay, he has spoken in this way, I will give you the holy and sure promises of David.
So, whoever's speaking, right? This is Paul. This is Paul speaking to the Jews at a synagogue, trying to convert Jews at Antioch Pisidium in chapter 13 of Acts, and he's quoting this and he's applying it to Jesus, saying, you are my son, today I have begotten you or become your father. All right, now back to the psalm. I will declare the Lord's decree. Go ahead and read that again, please.
I will declare the decree the Lord has said to me. You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance and the ends of the earth for your possession.
All right, a little bit more.
You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel.
Wow, that's violence, isn't it? Violence. It says that Jesus is going to have to use violence to break some of the rebellious nations that are not going to want to submit to him, but he's got that power and he's willing to use it, and he will use it. He's going to break them with a rod of iron. This is imagery. We're supposed to get a picture here of a big rod of iron and see it smashing a potter's vessel. The potter's vessel cannot stand up to that rod of iron. All right. And that's symbolic. That's symbolic parallelism right there. And now here's another Christ connection. Look at this. This is interesting. Caught me off guard here in Revelation chapter 2.
Then all the churches will know that I am the one who examines minds and hearts, and I will give to each of you according to your works. I say to the rest of you in Thyatira, who do not hold this teaching, who haven't known the so-called secrets of Satan, as they say, I'm not putting any other burden on you. Only hold on to what you have until I come.
This is John the Revelator, John the Apostle. He's quoting the words of Jesus that Jesus spoke to him on the island of Patmos. This is in the middle of a discourse where he's giving letters to churches. And this is one particular church that he's writing to. And here's what we want to get to.
The one who conquers and who keeps my works to the end, I will give him authority over the nations, and he will rule them with an iron scepter. He will shatter them like pottery, just as I have received this from my Father.
Jesus is saying, just like my Father told me in Psalm 2, where my Father told me, you are my son, and you will rule with a rod of iron, and you will shatter the nations like pottery. Jesus is here telling the churches that they will rule with him, and they will also carry that rod of iron that will shatter the pottery of all the nations that refuse to submit to the Lord's rule. Amazing. I never realized that that was also applied to us in the church. All right, and I will also give in the morning star, let anyone who has ears to hear listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. We're skipping a couple in Revelation, but they're on your teaching schedule. And now we're coming close to the end of Psalm 2, and the psalmist is going to give an invitation to the kings and the judges, or the kings and rulers or judges. He's going to give an invitation for them to change their mind. Instead of raging in anger at the Lord and wanting to cast off the Lord's rules, he's going to give them some wisdom, some advice. All right?
Now therefore, be wise, O kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth.
All right, he's saying, learn a lesson. Learn this lesson, you judges and kings of the earth. That's equivalent, by the way.
Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling.
This is what you should do, you nations that don't want the Lord. You should serve him with fear. You should be afraid of his mighty power. And rejoice. Be happy that you're not going to feel it, but rejoice with trembling. And don't forget, any one of us can fall. Any one of us can stumble. So we never should get that air of I'm self-sufficient and I cannot fall. The Bible says, let him who thinks he cannot fall take heed lest he fall. So rejoice, but do it with trembling, he says. And that's not all. That's expansive. And then here, look at this.
Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little.
This is poetic. It doesn't really mean kiss, but it means give him honor. It means respect him. It means love him. It means do what he says. Let your life to him be a kiss. Kiss the Son. because you don't want him to be angry with you. He does have wrath, and it can be kindled in just a little while. And then our last phrase of Psalm 2.
Blessed are all those who put their trust in him.
Blessed are all those who put their trust in the Lord's King. In David's day, it was David, the King, the anointed. But in our day today, it's our Lord and Savior Jesus, our Messiah, the Christ. Blessed are all those who put their trust in him. Now that little blessed right there ties in with the blessed that started out Psalm 1. And you remember that blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, or stands in the way of sinners, or sits in the seat of the scornful. Here's our two gates to enter the Psalms. We've got Psalm 1 and Psalm 2. Psalm 1 we called the two ways. Psalm 2 we called the Lord's King. In Psalm 1 we've got a conflict. It's either the way of the righteous or the way of the ungodly. The way of the ungodly will perish. Remember that word. The way of the righteous is blessed. Remember that word. When we get over here into Psalm 2, we've got the Lord and his King versus the nations, the peoples, the kings, and the rulers. And we find out that those who go against the Lord and his King will perish. That same word that we got in Psalm 1. But those who submit to the Lord's King will be blessed. That same word that came from Psalm chapter 1. And so this one starts out with a blessed and it ends with a blessed. And what is that literary structure called where it begins and ends with the same thing? It's the inclusio. The inclusio structure. It's put there for a purpose by the author to show that this goes together. And this is why Jewish scholars say that Psalm 1 and Psalm 2 go together, and they are the gateway to the Psalms. All right. Together, these two Psalms can be boiled down to just three little sentences. Number one, live the righteous way. Take the righteous path. Number two, submit to God's King. And number three, you will not perish, you will be blessed. All right, God bless you. That's our lesson for tonight. Thanks for joining us.